Welcome everyone to this next installment of A Plan's webinar series. Uh, for those of you who don't know me, although I know a lot of faces on this screen, I'm Michael Mosby. I'm A Plan's Fractional Chief Operations Officer, and just very pleased to be able to welcome you today. And today we are featuring A Plan coach, Elayna Alexandra. Elayna, she is an athlete, an ontological leadership coach, entrepreneur, and advocate for disability justice. And I can tell you, actually, from hearing her speak before, you're going to have an hour of just wonderful insights and wonderful learnings, and really can't wait to kind of experience this with all of you. She will be talking about intersectionality, disability, and neurodiversity, a pathway to inclusion. And with that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn this over to Elayna so she can then move us on into our webinar. Elayna, over to you.
So much, Mosby. I appreciate it. Thank you, A Plan, for this opportunity to kind of reach a broader audience with this message. I'm so excited to get started with everyone today. And so we will begin actually with a grounding and centering practice in 4 dimensions. So I invite you to pause all of the things. And I know it's not easy because I'm one of the worst offenders. When there's centering practice, I go, oh, it's time for me to catch up on that last little minute email. But I really invite you to come into this room and to be together with us and to give yourself the gift of this time to pause and be present fully. I invite you to turn off your camera if you want to and you're more comfortable with that, to lower your gaze or close your eyes, to get comfortable. This could be sitting, this could even be laying down, this could be standing. Find the position that your body needs in this moment. We're going to just start by noticing our aliveness, all of the sensations of our body, feeling what is present for us in this moment, noticing all of those thoughts that tend to start bombarding us and vying for our attention, and thank them. Let them know that you'll be able to attend to them a little later. Just breathe. Now, purposefully bring your attention and self to your center. We define this as about 2 inches below your navel, and sometimes it's helpful to bring your hands to your abdomen to feel into your center. And just breathe right there, bringing and drawing your breath to your center, all of your attention. We will begin centering in your length, drawing your breath up from your feet, all the way through your legs, up through your spine, and to the very top of your head. Trying to elongate your spine in this process. And noticing the length that you're able to gain. In this dimension, we have our dignity. So I invite you to notice your inherent worth. To just breathe for a moment, centering into your worth. Now we'll center into our width, balancing ourselves from left to right, widening from our center line, filling out beyond our edges, breathing and filling up our whole diaphragm, and our chest will widen and expand in connection. See if you can sense the people who stand at your sides, those who walk with you in life. Letting your breath expand you, beyond your edges and sensing that connection and that community. Next, we'll center into our depth. This is the feeling into the space behind us and in front of us. Sensing from all the way inside of us, all the way to the front and all the way to the back, not pushing or pulling. Just filling all of that space. We sense the trust and wisdom we have in our body and all that we embody. And finally, centering in your purpose and your care. Maybe speak your commitment to yourself, or notice your calling or your longing, going deep within your heart, at your heart's center, and feeling that fire inside, that dream you hold, and giving that just a bit of attention and breathing. And one last sort of collective breath together, breathing in deeply and then sighing it out. We can stretch, wiggle our toes, and come back to our collective virtual space. Welcome back. So we're entering into 50-ish minutes of being fully present and interactive in whatever means is possible for you today. So I invite you to check into this space, to share in the chat box. Where are you in the world and what brings you to this session? Let's see who's in the room. Just going to give you a moment to respond. Kim says she's curious. Welcome, Kim. You want more. Awesome. Lance, this may be a bit of a repeat for you if you were at my last session. Awesome. We have Colorado, we have California, we have New York. We are covering the continental United States and filling the room with curiosity and learning and excitement. I can already see this coming in. So wonderful to have you all here. Invite you to observe what has impact today. What are the words, the images, the stories, the ideas that inspire or challenge you? Reflect on the thoughts and feelings, the memories, the sensations that might arise for you during our time. And then during our presentation through the chat box or unmuting, participation in breakout rooms or group conversations, I invite you to bring your whole self. But most of all, let's enjoy and appreciate our time together. This is one of those unique moments. Time is precious. So I really am grateful for all of you taking almost an hour out of your day to be here with us. So we'll get started. We're going to be here for really building some expansion of understanding disability and intersectionality and how that is a piece of the conversation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I have a couple of learning objectives. You'll be able to define intersectionality, understanding how overlapping identities shape experiences of privilege and oppression. You'll be able to reflect on power and marginalization and examine your own experiences with power and marginalization. And we'll be able to look at comparing disability rights and disability justice, identifying those limits of the disability rights and how disability justice expands inclusivity and a movement. So we'll get started here. And I'm going to share with you kind of a grounding foundational video on on building social justice movements. Can you all hear that okay? Okay. I think I have to stop my share. I made a mistake when I began sharing, so I apologize. Oh, fun. I messed it up. Give me a minute. Give me a minute, folks. Sorry about this.
It happens to all of us, Elayna, and I love observing your equanimity and play. Yeah.
For sure.
And while you're doing that, I'll buy you a little time by just saying we have some of our brand new to A-Plan coaches on the line joining us from California and Sweden. And so welcome, Paula and Oren in particular. We're so glad you're with us and excited to have you joining our community. And also a welcome to anybody who is not yet familiar with A-Plan coaching and came to hear from Elayna. You'll get a follow-up email from us after this about upcoming sessions in our global webinar series. We're going to have one in November that's focused on sort of leadership. We chose to have it after the election, the US elections, and it'll be with Mercedes Martin on the topic of rewiring our leadership mindset. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah, for buying me a moment of time.
You got it.
I hope that I have it now. I'm not absolutely sure, but we'll see. We're along for the ride. Okay, so let me know if you can hear this. Disability is a normal, positive part of human diversity.
There are 1 billion individuals in this world with disabilities.
There's a lot of kinds of different disabilities.
Disabled people have other important identities.
We want to have a say in everything that affects us.
We are people with disabilities building power and inclusive social justice movements.
You can't have racial justice or economic justice or gender justice without disability justice. Just like you can't have disability justice without having racial, economic, and gender justice. To actually achieve any of those things requires achieving all of those things.
When we evolve our institutions to be fully inclusive, we can build a world where all are free.
True inclusion is revolutionary. I have to say, I just love this every time I watch it. All right. So we may or may not be familiar with American for Disabilities Act, the ADA. It was established in the 1990s and really defines a disability as a physical or mental impairment that specifically limits one or more major life activities. The ADA has created standards around accessibility and some rules and protections for people with qualifying disability around access. And this is really based on an assessment from a medical doctor. So there's a piece of power there in the room. Before the ADA was around, there was really much more of an open door towards discrimination in employment. Many people with disabilities were denied jobs outright and forced to be segregated in lower paying roles. There were no legal protections ensuring equal opportunities and workplaces that were offering accommodations. Now, some of those things still happen today. However, at least there are some laws that are protections and do give disabled folks a way to advocate for themselves and something to speak to. Before the ADA, there was inaccessible public buildings. There was inaccessible education for children, and public transportation was not always accessible either. And so there was just a larger gap than there is now for someone who is with a disability. Lots of lack of legal protection. The passage of the ADA in 1990, which I'm gonna date myself. That wasn't very long after I was born. And I every time I come to this date, 1990 was not that long ago. I'm maybe older than I look, but this was really, really recent history for us. That people with disabilities were considered as someone that had rights. And this movement has made a huge difference in legal protections, improved accessibilities, and kind of the broader societal understanding of rights for people with disabilities. So an incredibly important piece of our history. So I'm curious, and you can do this by a show of hands, you can throw it in the chat box, whatever works for you. Who has heard the term neurodiversity or neurodivergent? And I'm curious how many folks are using those terms and comfortable with what it means. Yeah, so some of my A-plan colleagues I see adding, and I see some things in chat box with a lot of no's, and then some yeses too. Yeah, so it is something that's actually been around for quite a while, but it's something that really is just now kind of gaining in popularity. So some of this may be a repeat for you if you're really familiar, and I invite you to just deepen your understanding, and deepen your familiarity and comfort with how to use these terms. And what they really mean. So neurodiversity refers to the concept that neurological differences such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other cognitive variations are natural and variable variations of the human brain rather than defects or disorders. So this is the beginning of a movement that starts to move out of sort of a medical model as something is wrong with the human being to this is just a variation. This is this opportunity. Neurodiversity is that movement that really promotes the idea that there's diversity in how people think, learn, and process information. And that this should be recognized and respected, much like diversity of race, gender, or culture. Neurodivergent itself is not a medical term. It's not a clinical term. It is an identity. And it is something that, for the most part, is those folks who have that identity that claim that term. However, it's gaining in popularity as something to recognize. Organizations are recognizing the value in neurodivergent thinking, which is like super, super exciting when we start seeing, hey, we actually want to find folks who think like this because we recognize the value that this different way of thinking brings to our organization. That's like, it gives me tingles, makes me so happy that we are moving into that space where this is like this movement that began to celebrate differences. It was first coined by Judy Singer in a 1990s research paper. So I think that's important to name. And really, it is allowing and encouraging the celebration of our differences, our edges, and that we see the world a little different. People, though, that have these different neurodivergent conditions are still often stigmatized. They're often misunderstood or unfairly judged. And my hope is that as we gain understanding of all of these different conditions and different ways of operating in the world, we can begin conversations that open the door to understand what does support look like and how do we build an inclusive environment where we really are fostering a sense of belonging, where everyone can be at the table as their full self. So the ADA, like I was saying, is really, really important, and it is limited because it is based on a dominant system. I sort of gave it away at the beginning. I said, no, it's based on a medical doctor diagnosing you with a qualifying disability. So what's wrong with that? Well, sometimes people don't have access to it, and it also puts the power in someone else, right? This is really a nod at ableism. It is sort of this way of controlling a system. When we begin to move into a social model of disability, and then from that into disability justice, we really start to build a world where we can live more freely. The social model of disability says that disability is caused by the way society is organized, and the medical model of disability says that the person has an impairment, right? So one is saying there's something wrong with the building because somebody can't access the building. The other one is saying there's something wrong with the person. And I know for me, what kind of world do I want to live in? I want to live in the world where we put it on the building, not the human being. Roughly 1 billion people, or 15% of our global population, have experienced disability, according to a lot of the estimates that I'm looking at. And probably it's more like 20% when we include neurodiversity. Because neurodivergent isn't always classified by a medical doctor, we don't have great data on this. Disability also is the only marginalized community that you can join at any time in your lifetime. It's the only one. And so really just pausing for a moment and realizing and thinking about that, the impact of this community. This is the one we can all join at any point. And in fact, arguably, most of us, if we live long enough, we will. Because as we age, often some form of physical disability will take hold. So when we think about that, what do we want? Do we want a world that focuses on the medical model, or do we want a world that focuses on the social model? Do we want to focus on the disability rights, or do we want to move into this broader term of disability justice, which calls for a deep structural transformation of our society? It goes beyond advocating for basic rights and inclusion to address the root causes of oppression, of ableism, racism, classism, and other intersecting forms of injustice. This framework offers a holistic approach to understanding and supporting disabled individuals, aiming for a world where everyone, regardless of their body or mind, can thrive with dignity and support. So I have this video of Carrie Gray, and Carrie Gray is an incredible advocate in this space. So I will let her speak.
My name is Carrie Gray. Carrie Gray is a Black disabled woman, and there's power behind that. In the United States, 1 in 4 in the Black community have some type of disability, whether that's visible or invisible. Historically speaking, organizations and institutions have shown us that they want to identify with one thing and build power around that, build influence and access. And I get it, right? So this idea that you have disability rights, you have women's rights, you have LGBTQ rights, and those kind of different pockets are really building a strong narrative. But the thing that I find to be harmful is when we're not building in coalition. Because the reality is that you have people like myself who are Black, disabled, and women, and so many other things. And when you live at the intersections of all 3 of those, then you can't split your political and social dynamics between these different groups. It doesn't produce real results of freedom, and it doesn't produce real results of access to employment and other opportunities that you're looking for. I'll give one example on this. So the Black Lives Matter movement. When it was created in conjunction mostly with a lot of young folks. What was unique about this particular movement was the intersectional philosophy that was built upon. The folks getting up and saying, we are not just fighting for one narrative, but we are specifically fighting for folks who are on the margins. We are fighting for Black folks who are also LGBTQ, who are women, who are femme, who are trans, who are disabled. They named it. They saw like their people across the country and said, I'm fighting for all of you. Not just some of you, not just the ones that have traditionally gained power and access. And that gives me a lot of hope because no one wants to be left behind.
That's right. No one wants to be left behind. We will not all be free or liberated until the most marginalized among us are free and liberated. And when we build the systems and places that flexibly and responsively support the individual needs of the most marginalized, we are truly building systems and places that support all of humanity, not just for the most privileged and powerful.
My name is Carrie Gray.
So I'm going to introduce myself now. I know Mosby already gave me a little bit of an introduction, but I'm going to give you a little more. I am a 41-year-old genderqueer person in a white disabled body, and I'm neurodivergent and a single mother of 2 neurodivergent boys. I'm also physically disabled. I'm an amputee, which you can't tell because I'm sitting down, and you get me from here on up. We're currently living in Michigan, and my marginalized identities don't define all of who I am, but they do impact how I move, understand, and interact with the world. I have both the visible and invisible disabilities. I am at the intersection of multiple marginalized communities, and I claim power and privilege in my white body, in my education, in my home ownership, and other areas as well. I'm an athlete, and I'm excited to represent the USA in the Women's First Amputee World Cup in Colombia coming up in November. And I'm an artist at my core. And as you can see here, this is actually one of my pieces that was shown as part of the Embracing Our Differences show around the United States. And here is one of the pieces that I did called Surgical Sunshine, which is a nod to my upbringing and the multiple surgeries that my young body endured. Like I said, I have education privilege, and I'm the first in my family to receive a master's degree. And my hope is to work tirelessly to build a culture in the world that embraces our differences. that creates spaces where all belong and where we can truly thrive. And that is the work that I do both through one-on-one ontological coaching sessions and through work with teams. So we're going to take a little bit of a deeper look at this intersectionality, at power and privilege. So you'll see here a wheel, and I know it's probably a little hard to read, and it doesn't include everything. But this next little bit of a segment is work that I co-designed with a colleague of mine, Diane Reynolds, and she's spent 25 plus years in the infant, family and early childhood field, and she does a lot of consulting in that space. So I want you to start thinking about who you are. What time have you actually spent about thinking about who you are? Or how who you are affects how you see the world? What body you are in affects what you see in the world, affects the treatment you have, affects the options that you see. What are your inherent biases? We all walk around with them. But when we acknowledge them, we can do something about them. Where are your privileges? I can remember first thinking about this work, and this was decades ago. And I struggled with this. I was like, I'm not powerful. I'm not privileged. I'm in this disabled body. And then I started looking deeper. And I go, oh, but I'm in a white body. And I have education privilege. And I have, community that supports me. And I have this and I have that. And so I invite you to just notice, because in the US, power and privilege consolidates in very predictable ways. White, US citizen, cisgender, heterosexual, man, married. And I thought when I got this divorce that we as Americans were kind of over the stigma of divorce. No, we're not. At least 6 years or 7 years ago, we weren't. And I don't know that it's changed. And I'm shocked here today, even moving into the house that I'm in a Midwestern state that tends to have conservative views. And my next door neighbor said, oh, where's your husband? And I said, I don't have one. And he looked at me confused, confounded. He said, so you bought this house? In kind of horror. And I said, yes, I bought this house. Here I am, mother of 2, homeowner. And this is my power and privilege. And yet it's still met with shock because I'm a single mother. So noticing where your identities confer privilege and power and where they confer or where they take away that privilege and power. So these are our intersectionality. This is our intersectionality. It's who we are, the place in life where it intersects and collides with the different parts of ourselves. The concept of intersectionality refers to those various aspects of social location where they intersect to mutually constitute individuals' lived experience. And this term was introduced by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. As she says, intersectionality is a lens through which you can see where power comes and collides and where it locks and intersects. It is the acknowledgement that everyone has their own unique experience of discrimination and privilege. So I invite you to take a couple of minutes, and I'm going to flip back to the previous slide and just note, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, maybe 3, to note down where, what is your race? What is your gender identity? What is your sexual identity? Where are those moments of marginalization, and where are the spaces of power in your life? And when we're done with this, I'm going to actually let me go quickly to one more slide. I'm going to drop this in to the chat box so that you have a couple of questions that I want you to consider. So, which of your identities confer power and privilege, and highlight those, and which of your identities are more marginalized or disadvantaged, and mark those. And then begin to call to mind a specific incident or memory of a time where you felt powerful, where you claimed power, earned or unearned. And we're going to go into a little breakout room for just a very short period of time where you'll have a moment to speak with another person about what you're finding out. Okay, so to make your lives a little easier, we're going to go back to this slide. And now I will give you a couple of minutes to reflect on your own identity. I'm going to play just a little bit of music. Oh, that's not the song I wanted.
My family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light.
Okay, lovely humans. I am noticing the time, so we're going to do a little bit of a pivot. And we're going to actually just go into a group conversation for the last little bit of our time. And I'd love to invite a couple of you, if you're willing, to share a tiny bit of where your identities are coming up or what you are noticing based on this work that you're beginning. And what I didn't say at the beginning was this is just the beginning of a conversation. It's a tiny drop. It is not by no means the end of this conversation. So I invite you to continue to deepen this conversation and take the opportunity now in this space to speak up. What are you noticing about how your social identities inform your life and work? What are you noticing about how you acknowledge or claim power or privilege? And what are the questions that are arising? You can just unmute if you want to speak. We're a small enough group, so you're welcome to just unmute yourself.
Happy to go first. And Elayna, I hope I can stretch the rules a little bit because I had an aha moment looking at the chart, and that was all the sub parts of the circles that were closest to power seemed to me to be like the quintessential American dream, not defined by us, but defined by people who hold the power. And so as I looked at all of those things that were closest to the circle of power, I'm like, my gosh, it becomes kind of self-evident what's going on for us and kind of what the challenges are. Thank you for that. That's a great model.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then we'll probably need to move to our close because I do want to give you just a couple minutes before the top of the hour. So John, go ahead.
Wonderful. Elayna, this is really insightful. And Mosby hit on it in the chat, and it just helps clarify things and understand things. And I deal with MS, and I have some really significant mobility challenges. I mean, who knew stepping up on a 6-inch curb could take so long? I mean, it's something that, that's something that I face every day, but it doesn't stop me. And, I'm privileged in so many ways. I'm a white, educated, wealthy male. Okay. I've got everything. This world was built for me. I'm sorry to, I know my privilege. I do. But I have a disability, yes, but I actually, Elayna, also have a lot of power in it. It's given me a lot of voice. I've written a book. It's given me voice in a way that I never would have found. Like, I was involved in social justice, out of college. And as a privileged white male, I had some trouble finding my place and my voice in it. But, because I'm now dealing with a disability, I found my place, I found my voice. And I just want to thank you for just your construct, for understanding this, and for me understanding myself more and better.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. And I'm so celebrating you finding your place and finding your voice and speaking up, right? Because that's part of it is, well, I don't love that advocacy and speaking up falls on the oppressed so often. I don't love that. I want the able-bodied to see us and to be able to speak up and create advocacy. And part of the role is to speak up, to create advocacy for each other and for a better world. So I'm going to conclude with a couple of quotes here. When we identify our privilege intersects with someone else's oppression, we'll find our opportunities to make real change. And finally, this is one I love. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So I really appreciate you all coming and taking a moment and beginning the kind of uncomfortable work of actually looking at who we are, where our power shows up, where our privilege shows up, and also where our marginalization may be present. And I encourage you to continue to be in the questions, to be in the wonder, because that is the beginning, that is the opening for a further conversation. Thank you so much for being with us. And I accomplished what I wanted, which was to give you 9 minutes to transition to whatever is next, versus running it right up to the hour. So I apologize if you were hoping for the additional 9 minutes, but this is my gift to you.
Thank you so much, Elayna. Thank you, everyone that was able to attend. And I'm not going to cut into your 9 minutes, giving back to you to your day. So be blessed. Thank you so much. And we'll see you soon.